The book I read was Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, and basically that title, what it means, is when a local counselor fails to make his declaration of acceptance of office within the proper time, or on the day of his death. Lovely, right? Well, this book was about Barry Brother, who died in the beginning of this book unexpectedly by a disease. I forgot.
Aneurysm.
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 He said it.
It's not a disease.
So, he died in the beginning unexpectedly, and it affected the whole community because he had lots of friends there, and that's how it messed up the community. And this book took place in a small suburban area in Pagford, England. This book was pretty complicated reading, actually, because in the first 100 pages, there was just a bunch of points of views that I didn't understand, and I wasn't prepared for all these characters to just jump in. But as I continued reading, I adjusted to it. It was hard. This is a hard book. I couldn't really tell who this main character was, or if there was any main characters, because all of the points of views that were switched. At the end, Barry Fairbrother's son's friend called Fats started dating this girl, Crystal Wheaton, and started getting pretty serious behind a tree in a park, and she had her little brother with her because she was supposed to babysit him. But since their mom got caught doing injecting heroin actually. Anywho's, that's why I said babysit. But anywho's, the girl's little brother ran off because he's a kid, and that's what kids do. They're stupid. That was mean of me because the girl's brother ran and fell into a river, stupidly. And he went underneath a bridge because the current was taking him there. And Crystal's friend, this really long name, but she saw him drowning and tried to save her, but instead cutting her leg on a sharp rock, and resulting in both the little boy's and the Crystal's friend's death, which devastated the community. And this book was exactly 503 pages. 503. 503. 503. Okay. Now, not Evan. Now Zane is going to read his.
That's me.
Yo, what's up, Miss Houston? This is Zane Roshton, in case you don't know my name, which you should. That's okay. Come on, how old are we? Anyway, so I'm doing my podcast, straight chilling, you know. And yeah, I read that book. You probably can't read it, but it says John Green and Abundance of Katherines, and that's like an award thing. Okay, so basically, this book is about this guy named Colin. Okay, and he's dated 19 girls named Catherine, hence the name An Abundance of Katherines, right? So, because, anyway, at the very beginning of the book, Catherine, IX, basically Catherine 19, she had just dumped him, and so he got, like, all depressed, and so his fat brown friend named Hassan, I don't know how Americans pronounce it, Hassan, he was like, yo, let's go on a road trip, because school had just ended. He's like, yo, let's go on a road trip so that you can feel better about yourself. And so they went on this road trip, and they go to this, like, this white trash place in Tennessee called Gutshot, I think. And, so they meet this girl there, and she asks them, like, she recognizes Colin from, like, this thing that he is, because he's basically, like, he refers to himself as a prodigy. Other people call him a genius, but he doesn't believe that he's a genius, because genius creates something. Prodigies are just good at learning. Anyway, so she recognizes him from this TV show that featured him, and he decides he's gonna stay with. They ask him to stay there and work for their white trash place. And so turns out they live in like this mansion because I don't know. And so he starts to fall in love with this Lindsay girl. Oh, Lindsay is her name, by the way. And so but except Lindsay is dating this guy named Colin. So the only girl that Colin has ever dated is named Catherine, and Lindsay's only dated one guy before, and his name was Colin. So they call the other Colin TOC, so that you can separate the two Collins, because TOC means the other Colin, I think. And and so basically, Lindsay finds out that Colin is cheating on her with Hassan's girlfriend toward the middle of the book. Oh, so they caught him cheating, and so Lindsay broke up with him, and so whenever Lindsay broke up with him, Colin expected her to be all sad, but because TOC was like, yeah, they were like lovers and whatever, and so whenever he finds her, she says she was relieved because she actually loved him and Colin instead of TOC, and so Colin and Lindsay start. By the way, the whole time they've been going on this, Colin's been working on this thing that he calls the theorem, right? And the theorem is basically he's trying to become a genius. He's trying to create something, and he thinks that every single relationship is plottable on a geometrically, like on a graph, and so. He spends his whole time trying to figure out, and by this graph that he's been working on, it's based on all the Catherines he's dated. Based on this graph that he's working on, Lindsay is gonna break up with him in 4 days, and so he gets really scared. And then Lindsay pretends to break up with him in 4 days, but then he realizes that you cannot plot like on a graph the actual relationships. Relationships can't be graphed. It doesn't make any sense, and so. He comes to this realization that love is not plottable and all that garbage, and then they drive away into the sunset together. Actually, they drive to a Wendy's, but close enough. This book is 227 pages. It's backwards, but that's what it is. Okay, and so yeah, it was a pretty good book. I mean, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I could have because, towards the end of every chapter, he would stop talking about what was going on presently and go back and talk about his other relationships, and they would call it like the beginning of the middle of the end and the end of the beginning of the middle, and it was like really weird the way that they phrased each part of it, and I didn't really, I know you wouldn't have been able to like figure out how the story came to be without that, but I didn't really like the way it was formatted. But otherwise, it's John Green. I mean, this is the last of his books that he hasn't like partnered up with for that I have read, that I'm going to read, and so I mean, compared to the others, it's kind of a disappointment, but it was still pretty good. That's all I have to say.